The fall of the mighty Tang Dynasty in 907 AD didn't bring peace. Instead, it plunged China into one of its most chaotic and fragmented eras, the Five Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms period. For over 70 years, the Middle Kingdom was a chessboard of warring states, shifting borders, and fleeting dynasties. The seeds of this chaos were sown in the late Tang. The central authority had withered, leaving power in the hands of regional military governors known as Jidushi. These warlords ruled their territories like independent kings, collecting their own taxes and commanding private armies. Among these warlords, two giants emerged in the north: Zhu Wen, a former rebel leader who had defected to the Tang, and Li Cunxu, a Shatua Turk general fiercely loyal to the imperial house. Their bitter rivalry would define the first decades of the new era. In 907, the charade of Tang rule finally ended. Zhu Wen deposed the last Tang emperor, a mere boy, and declared himself the founding emperor of the Later Liang Dynasty. The transition was brutal, marked by the systematic execution of the Tang aristocracy, but Zhu Wen's new empire was built on blood and paranoia. His court was a den of depravity. To maintain control and choose a successor, he famously used his own daughters-in-law as political pawns, demanding they attend to him in ways that shocked even his hardened generals. Zhu Wen eventually favored his adopted son, Zhu Wen. This choice wasn't based on merit alone, it was heavily influenced by the charms of Zhu Yuan's beautiful wife, who had become a fixture in the aging emperor's inner circle. In 912, as Zhu Wen lay dying, the succession crisis exploded. When his biological son, Zhu Yugui, learned he was being bypassed for an adopted brother, he didn't wait for nature to take its course. He launched a desperate, bloody palace coup. Zhu Yugui personally oversaw the assassination of his father and swiftly moved to eliminate Zhu Yuan. Zhao Kuangyin, who shared his siblings' determination to end the fragmentation of the Middle Kingdom once and for all. In 979, the Song forces finally conquered the northern Han, the last of the independent states. After 7 decades of division and warfare, China was unified under a single banner. The era of the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms was over. The legacy of this period was profound. While the north saw constant dynastic turnover, the south had experienced relative peace and economic growth. This era saw the rise of a new scholar official class and the beginning of China's economic shift toward the Yangtze River Valley. The chaos of the 5 dynasties had also acted as a crucible, forging the administrative and military structures that would allow the Song dynasty to become one of the most culturally and economically sophisticated empires in human history. From the ruins of the Tang to the birth of the Song, these 70 years were more than just a bridge between empires. They were a testament to the resilience of Chinese civilization, a story of how, even in the darkest hours of division, the dream of unity never truly died. Guo Wei's reign marked a turning point. He began the hard work of rebuilding the state, focusing on agricultural recovery and administrative reform. He was a ruler who preferred the company of scholars to the intrigues of the harem, setting a new tone for the era. When Guo Wei died in 954, he was succeeded by his adopted son, Rong, known to history as Emperor Shizong of later Zhou. Rong was perhaps the most brilliant figure of the entire 5 dynasties period, a warrior king with a vision for a unified China. Rong launched a series of brilliant military campaigns, expanding the empire's borders and professionalizing the army. Serving as one of his most trusted generals was a man named Zhao Kuangyin, who would soon play a pivotal role in history. In 959, at the height of his power and in the middle of a campaign to reclaim the 16 prefectures, Rong died suddenly of illness. He was only 38. His 7-year-old son was left on the throne, and the fate of the empire once again hung in the balance. In 960, as rumors of a northern invasion spread, Zhao Kuangyin was sent to the front. At a place called Chenqiao, his troops staged a carefully orchestrated mutiny, draping him in a yellow imperial robe. The later Zhou ended, and the Song dynasty was born. Zhao Kuangyin, now Emperor Taizu of Song, knew that military coups had been the curse of the previous decades. He embarked on a systematic campaign to unify the 10 kingdoms of the south, using a combination of overwhelming force and diplomatic finesse. To ensure his own dynasty wouldn't fall to a general's ambition, he invited his top commanders to a banquet. In a move known as relinquishing military power over a cup of wine, he persuaded them to retire to a life of luxury, effectively centralizing military control. Zhao Kuangyin died in 976, leaving a nearly unified China. He was succeeded by his brother. The North China plain lay wide open to invasion, a reality that would plague future dynasties. Shi Jingtang died in 942, remembered by history as a traitor emperor. He was succeeded by his nephew, Shi Zhonggui, who possessed a more defiant spirit. He refused to maintain the submissive son status, triggering a massive Khitan retaliation. The Khitan armies were relentless. They captured the later Jin capital of Kaifeng in 946, ending the dynasty. However, the nomadic conquerors found the humid climate and constant resistance of the central plains difficult to manage. As the Khitan withdrew, a power vacuum emerged. Liu Zhiyuan, a general based in Taiyuan, seized the opportunity. In 947, he declared the founding of the later Han Dynasty, the shortest-lived of the 5 northern dynasties. Liu Zhiyuan was a stern and effective military man who brought a semblance of order back to the war-torn north. But his reign was tragically short. He died just a year after taking the throne, leaving his young son to navigate a court filled with ambitious generals. The young emperor, Li Cunxu, felt threatened by the powerful veterans who had served his father. He attempted to secure his position through a series of purges, but his heavy-handed approach backfired spectacularly when Li Cunxu ordered the execution of the families of his top generals. He crossed a line. Zhou Wen, one of the most respected commanders in the empire, was forced into open rebellion to save his own life and those of his remaining followers. In 950, Zhou Wen's veteran troops marched on the capital. The later Han fell almost instantly. In its place, Zhou Wen established the later Zhou dynasty. Unlike his predecessors, Zhou Wen was known for his frugality and genuine concern for the common people. Li Cunxu proved to be a capable ruler, implementing much-needed reforms and bringing a brief window of stability to the north. However, as age caught up with him, he became increasingly paranoid, a common affliction for emperors in this era of constant betrayal. In 933, a failed coup by his son, Li Cunxu, broke the aging emperor's spirit. Li Zhiyuan died shortly after, leaving the throne to his younger son, Li Cunxu. But the peace was short-lived. The provincial governors were watching, waiting for a sign of weakness. Li Cunxu, the adopted son of Li Zhiyuan and a seasoned general, soon rose in rebellion. He swept aside the young emperor's forces and took the throne for himself. Li Cunxu was forced to flee and was eventually killed, continuing the bloody tradition of succession. Li Cunxu's reign was defined by his intense rivalry with Shi Jingtang, a powerful general and his own brother-in-law. The two men distrusted each other deeply, and the northern border became a tinderbox of tension. In 936, the spark was struck. Shi Jingtang, facing a purge, made a fateful decision that would haunt Chinese history for centuries. He reached out to the Khitan Liao Empire to the north, offering them the strategic 16 prefectures in exchange for military support. The Khitan accepted. Their iron cavalry poured across the border, shattering the later Tang defenses. Li Cunxu, seeing no way out, retreated to a tower in the capital and set it ablaze, perishing in the flames. The later Tang was no more. Shi Jingtang was installed as the emperor of the later Jin dynasty, but he was a ruler in name only. He was forced to refer to the Khitan emperor as father and himself as son emperor, a humiliating arrangement that signaled China's newfound vulnerability. The loss of the 16 prefectures was a strategic catastrophe. This mountainous region had served as China's natural shield against northern nomads. Without it, he seized the throne, but his reign was born of parricide and lacked any semblance of legitimacy. His rule lasted barely a year. In 913, his younger brother Zhu Yozhen led a counter-rebellion. Surrounded and defeated, Zhu Yugui took his own life, and Zhu Yozhen became the third and final ruler of the later Liang. Zhu Yozhen was a weak leader, more interested in courtly life than the grueling demands of war. Under his watch, the later Liang began to crumble, losing vital territory to their arch-rivals, the Jin state, led by the descendants of Li Cunxu. The momentum had shifted. In 923, Li Cunxu, the brilliant but eccentric son of Li Cunxu, formally declared the restoration of the Tang line, founding the later Tang Dynasty. He was determined to finish what his father had started. As the later Tang armies marched on the capital, Zhu Yozhen realized the end was near. Rather than face capture, he ordered a servant to kill him. With his death, the later Liang dynasty vanished, replaced by the rising power of the later Tang. As the later Tang armies marched on the capital, Zhu Yozhen realized the end was near. Rather than face capture, he ordered a servant to kill him. With his death, the later Liang dynasty vanished, replaced by the rising power of the later Tang. Li Cunxu was a master of the battlefield, but a disaster on the throne. He was obsessed with traditional opera, often neglecting state affairs to perform on stage with professional actors, even giving them high-ranking government positions. While the emperor played, the people suffered. To fund his lavish lifestyle and military campaigns, he imposed crushing taxes. The initial hope that accompanied the restoration of the Tang quickly turned into widespread resentment and public unrest. The breaking point came in 926. A series of mutinies culminated in the Xingjiao Gate incident. Li Cunxu was killed by his own troops, and his adopted brother, Li Zhiyuan, was propelled to the throne.